Representative Justin Pearson out of the state of Tennessee, who's a state representative in Tennessee, was kicked out of the state house floor after trying to criticize Republicans and calling Republicans racist for redistricting in Tennessee, a state that is more red than Massachusetts is blue. Yet Massachusetts has no red seats, and obviously Tennessee has one blue seat. Republicans who are redistricting in Tennessee, after multiple calls on them to redistrict, are now calling for Justin Pearson to be jailed because of the ridiculous stunt he pulled off on the state house floor. He started intimidating state troopers and acted extremely unprofessionally. Here's a clip of him reacting to his own mishap on MSNOW. We first start off with this analyst describing why the Virginia redistricting is so racist against Black people.
Talk to us about your lawsuit. What is it you're trying to drive to? Because I think a lot of people think this is kind of like, oh, done.
Well, it has been a perilous week in American democracy, right, as we witness the fallout of the Supreme Court's decision. Lawmakers across the South are moving at lightning speed and intentionally targeting Black voters, dismantling majority Black districts, seeking to silence Black voters, seeking...
Okay, the Supreme Court ruled that the Voting Rights Act does not preclude that you can vote based off race. You cannot vote you cannot form districts based off race. That is just common sense. In America, we're not racist. We don't make decisions based off race. Look, I understand what the Voting Rights Act was meant to do, or specifically that redistricting based off minority dilution, which is what it's called when you dilute the minority vote, was an issue back in the 1960s. But right now, people are not redistricting based off race. People are redistricting based off political motive. You can divide Americans by every group. You can divide them by race, you can divide them by religion, you can divide them by gender, you can divide them by orientation, you can divide them by age. Does that mean that we make redistricting maps based off those dividers? Of course not. We don't do that in American society. American society, and particularly government, only cares about politics. And in that sense, that means that redistricting is only motivated by politics. Therefore, racial redistricting, which was just a benefactor of the Democrats because Democrats typically take the minority vote, then is obviously unconstitutional. So, this is ridiculous that Democrats are trying to frame this as some sort of racist ruling, because even the majority of moderate liberal Democrats could agree with this.
To strip power away from Black elected officials. I'm somebody who...
Okay, once again, the ruling is not the ruling is not stripping power away from Black elected officials. Most of Black elected officials are elected in majority white districts. Most of America is majority non-Black. Black people only make up around 15% of the total population in the United States. Therefore, the majority of the vote that Black people are getting are not from their own the people that are, the own color of their skin, but are from other colors of skin. It doesn't matter. We don't function in government as a society based off color of the skin. We function in government and in politics, based off political party and orientation based off that political party.
Who has been a lifelong civil rights lawyer, and I have fought many of voting rights battles, but this moment is like none other.
Yeah, because this moment's the only moment where she has nothing to say, because there's nothing, unconstitutional, or there's nothing that's wrong about the fact that we don't want racial redistricting.
We saw yesterday in Tennessee is something that I think we'll talk about for generations. But for now, the NAACP is doubling down on the fight that lies ahead. We will use every tool available to beat back the discrimination that we are witnessing in this moment. And we filed suit in Tennessee State Court challenging the proclamation issued by the governor that called this special session. The law requires that those proclamations be very exact and precise in terms of the purpose for bringing the legislature back. He said the purpose was to redraw maps, but he didn't just do that. He repealed a law that has been on the books for 5 decades that actually prohibits Tennessee from engaging in mid-decade redistricting. He also wiped away a residency requirement.
So it's different if there's a rule or a statute in place that prohibits or prevents a state from redistricting, mid-decade redistricting, which is something that most states allow. It's different for that to be a law or a statute or just president than for it to be in the state constitution. That's the difference here. So in New York, for example, New York had a state provision in the state constitution which required, if any amendments were to be made in it, a referendum to be held or a vote among the people. For a situation though where it's just the state or just a president or just a statute that can be repealed by the governor or the House legislator, that's very, very different. It means that the government has that control because it's a law or statute that can be repealed. So it's not like it would be a big deal if it were to be in the state constitution, but it obviously wasn't.
For lawmakers as they move forward with these new maps, and wiped away a requirement that local election officials actually tell voters what precinct they're assigned to. So we're arguing that the proclamation was illegitimate and that this session should be wiped off the books and that the existing maps should be used for elections this year.
Representative Pearson, you are a plaintiff in this lawsuit that was filed Thursday in the district court for the Middle District of Tennessee. This is an assault on Black people in this country.
Oh my God.
And frankly, it's been happening for a while now. When I first met you, it was because you and two other state elected officials were kicked out of the chamber during a session because, well, we don't even need to go through it.
Yeah,
they
go through
kicked
it.
y'all out and not anybody else.
Go through it. They should go through it. They did it. They kicked him out because he was the only one yelling. He was yelling in the House chamber. He was disrupting the House chamber. He was threatening state troopers in the House chamber. And that's why they kicked him out. It had nothing to do with the color of their skin. Like, this entire idea that somehow because there's some disparity, it always means that there's some discrimination going on is just completely false. It's the entire leftist narrative. It's the basis of CRT. It's the basis of DEI. And these narratives that, because there's disparity, there's always discrimination, it's very hurtful for the country. It's extremely hurtful because the main issues that we have are being ignored. For example, in terms of CRT or DEI or even affirmative action, if you look at it, the main issue with the fact that Black people don't go to college at the same rates as other races do, or the fact that their high school graduation rates are vastly different, or single family households are vastly different, those factors are based off a cultural difference. It's not based off a racial difference. And if we continue trying to make it seem as if it's a racial difference, then the issue will never be fixed. And that's what this TV anchor on MSNOW is trying to do.
And so you had some very impassioned words on the floor from the State House yesterday. I know you were they attempted to bar you from re-entering. What is your message to not just other elected officials in state legislatures across the country, but Black and brown voters in some of these states across the South, across the country, about what it's going to take? Because we are, I believe, in a post-Reconstruction period, another one right now.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I think you're muted. There you go.
Thank you. What we experienced and what we saw yesterday in the state of Tennessee was a political lynching. It is very much an era of retribution that we are entering into in the United States of America across the South, where 12 to 20 United States House seats that are Black majority are at risk of being taken away, and nearly 200 seats for state House members and state Senate members are likely to be taken away by the rise of white supremacy and its attempt to solidify its power on behalf of the biggest white supremacist in the United States of America, which is the president of the United States.
Okay, this guy is just disgusting. He's calling Donald Trump a white supremacist. He's calling the entire Republican Party a white supremacist. These are the people that get Donald Trump almost assassinated. These are the people that claim that the entire political right, which is supported by more than half of the country, is white supremacist, is racist. These people are more racist than anyone else in the country because they see the entire world through race. They cannot see color. Or if they aren't seeing the entire world for race, then they're just using race as a political tool. I mean, it's disgusting and it's extremely hurtful for a country. The best way to disassociate people is by calling them racist. It's by calling them Nazis. It's by calling them anti-Semitic. That's the best way to disassociate people from mainstream politics. And this is exactly what they're doing.
I was expelled and my other black colleague was expelled from the Tennessee General Assembly standing up against gun violence while our white colleague was not. That's not accidental or coincidental. This is a part of who the Tennessee General Assembly is. But
okay, by the way, this is 100% a scripted answer. Like,
particular moment, we all have to stand up, speak up, and fight back from whatever positions we have in every part of this country. At the State House, in the governor's mansions, we need to be advocating and fighting and resisting, because what just happened in Tennessee was the largest and the most swift disenfranchisement of black people that we have seen in at least a century.
Kristen Clark, your sense of where this fight goes next?
So a few things. I think that
it's very funny. If you look at the panel, 4 out of the 5 people on the panel are black. So this is somehow the disassociation of, or, expulsion of black vote or influence on politics. Yeah.
we're going to see a lot of battles in the courts as civil rights lawyers and organizations like the NAACP fight back. I think that we're going to see a groundswell of support inside of our Capitol houses as lawmakers put targets on majority black districts. People are going to show up and use their voices to speak out, as we saw yesterday in Tennessee, as we saw today in Louisiana and Alabama. But most importantly, I think we're going to see people on the streets in every corner of this country resisting this return to Jim Crow 2.0. So we are in a battle to save democracy. Justice Roberts was wrong when he put the first death knell in the Voting Rights Act and claimed that it was a new day and that voting discrimination was a thing of the past. We have seen racism unleashed in our political process, and in this moment, every American needs to use their voice to speak out.
I just kind of look at all of this, Representative, and I alluded to it coming in about where the trend line of the country is going. And what a lot of this, for me, signals is fear, that thus the replacement theory BS that you hear a lot of folks out there, sort of sound like little crows out there mimicking. You also recognize how much the country foundationally could change. When you look at your own legislature, when you look at the men and women in that chamber, and you look at how they're treating you, their fear is one day, sir, you're going to be sitting there as the speaker of that chamber. You're going to be sitting there as the majority leader in that Senate. You may be standing there as the governor of that state one day with the power to do to them what they're doing to us, to you right now. How do you see that future? And what are you saying to particularly constituents your age who are for the first time having to confront something that I went through with my parents back in the 1960s? And now here you are as a young legislator, already having experience, as Simone pointed out at the beginning, what Jim Crow feels like and sounds like and looks like. How do you help you?
It is just extremely offensive to, well, he alluded to his parents, so I would assume his parents went through Jim Crow. To everyone who actually did go through Jim Crow, to compare the situation right now to Jim Crow. I mean, it is just disgusting. It's extremely offensive. I can't believe this is like being aired on national TV. This is just horrible. It just goes to show how racist Democrats are.
Young people appreciate what this moment requires of them going forward.
I think the main thing that people have to realize, and what young people realize in particular, is that we did not get this far by ourselves. the work of our ancestors, the blood, the sweat, and the tears that they shed for 400 years in this country is how we've gotten to the point and the places that we are. I'm running for the United States Congress after the same women who watched me give Easter speeches now want to see me give speeches in the United States Congress. That is the arc that we understand as a people, that we have persevered through everything that has been thrown at us, from enslavement to lynching, from the burning of Tulsa to the Memphis massacre, from mass incarceration to now the removal in mass of Black political power through congressional seats.
This is
We
like
have
disgusting.
persevered.
This is really just so extremely concerning. Like how they can compare anything that is going on right now, the redistricting and gerrymandering that is being conducted by both the Democrats and Republicans, how they can compare it to Jim Crow or slavery is just horrible.
And that perseverance does scare them. It worries a lot of people. It worries, the biggest worry of white supremacy, because they've tried everything to destroy us. They've tried everything to break us, and it does not work. We continue to persist. We continue to fight back. We can continue to build power. And in this moment in time, that is what we are seeing, a mass mobilization of people, unlike anything that we've seen recently, at least in Tennessee history, but likely across the South, to organize, to mobilize, to activate, to register more voters, but then to make sure they get to the polls. They've broken up all these districts thinking that we're not going to be able to compete in them, but we are, and we're going to win. And so what the devil means for bad, God's going to turn into good. But I do know that the history of our ancestors is our encouragement for why we have to fight and why we will win.
Yeah, like what a just horrible person. I can't say anything else other than he's just a racist. He's horrible. He's using race as a political tool instead of using actually his ideas. As you notice, he didn't say one thing of policy in that entire interview. He didn't say one thing of actual political senseness in that entire interview. He just tried to use race and just tried to disenfranchise voters. He's, this is what I hate. This is why Democrats try to fundamentally change institutions. They try to change the, way we look at race in our country when our country is not racist. And, they continue to do so while there's real situations that are being ignored in American society here. So guys, please subscribe, like this video and comment down below your thoughts.